Welcome to Sleepy Travel Stories. Tonight, let me take you on a journey to a faraway place. Close your eyes, relax, and let the world drift away. The late afternoon air carries the scent of jasmine and distant wood fire as you make your way down the weathered wooden steps toward the river's edge. Here in Cambodia, the day has begun its slow surrender to evening, and the Mekong stretches before you like a wide ribbon of burnished copper, catching and holding the slanted light. Your feet find their rhythm on the worn planks of the dock, each footstep creating the softest percussion against the constant whisper of water moving past weathered posts. The riverboat waits with quiet patience, her white painted hull reflecting wavering images of the sky above. She's not large, perhaps 60 feet from bow to stern, but there's something deeply reassuring about her proportions, the way she sits steady and confident in the gentle current. The name Lotus Dream curves across her bow in faded gold lettering, and you can see where countless journeys have left their mark in the subtle patina of well-traveled wood and the comfortable settling of her lines into the water. Captain Kosal stands near the gangplank, his weathered hands resting easily on the rope rail. His smile creates deep lines around eyes that have watched this river through countless seasons, through monsoons and dry months, through the endless cycle of waters rising and falling. He wears the comfortable clothes of someone who belongs entirely to this place. Loose cotton shirt, the color of faded indigo, sleeves rolled to his elbows, revealing forearms bronzed by decades of reflected sunlight from water. "Welcome aboard," he says, his voice carrying the warm cadence of someone who has greeted travelers at this same hour, in this same golden light, for more years than you can count. His English carries traces of Khmer inflection, each word shaped with careful attention. There's no hurry in his movement as he extends a steady hand to help you cross from dock to deck, his palm warm and calloused from rope and wheel. The deck beneath your feet feels solid and reassuring, teak planks worn smooth by countless passengers and polished by salt air and river spray. You can feel the subtle movement of the boat, not quite in stillness, but not yet motion. A gentle breathing with the water's rhythm. The sensation travels up through your legs, a reminder that you've stepped into a different world now, one that moves with currents and tides rather than roads and schedules. Behind you, other passengers are arriving in the unhurried way that seems natural to this time of day. An elderly couple from France moves with the careful grace of people who have learned to savor transitions, their soft conversation mixing French and English as they comment on the beauty of the light. A young photographer from Australia adjusts his camera strap and pauses to capture the way shadows fall across the water. But even his eagerness carries a dreamlike quality in this amber hour. The boat's crew moves with practiced ease, preparing for departure, with movements so fluid they seem choreographed by the river itself. A young woman named Channery. Her name means full moon. Captain Kosal tells you with quiet pride, arranges cushions on the covered upper deck where passengers will gather to watch the sunset. Her hands smooth each pillow with the care of someone creating a sanctuary, adjusting angles so that every seat will have an unobstructed view of the water ahead. Below, in the boat's small galley, you catch glimpses of the cook preparing the evening meal. Steam rises from a pot where lemongrass and galangal simmer with fresh fish caught this morning. The aromatic clouds drifting up through the boat and mixing with the river air. The scent makes you realize how the journey has already begun to slow your sense of time, how hunger and satisfaction exist differently here, governed by the boat's gentle schedule rather than the urgent demands of land-based life. You find yourself drawn to the bow, where a simple bench faces forward into the journey ahead. The river here is perhaps 200 meters wide, broad enough that the far shore exists in soft focus. Its palm trees and occasional houses rendered impressionistic by distance and the day's gathering haze. Water buffaloes stand knee-deep in the shallows, their massive forms dark and still as sculptures, only the occasional flick of an ear or swish of a tail revealing their living presence. The water itself moves with hypnotic consistency, its surface broken by the gentlest of ripples that catch the light and scatter it in countless brief diamonds. You watch the patterns form and dissolve, each configuration unique and unrepeatable. There's something deeply restful about this endless variation within sameness. The way the river shows you that change can be constant without being jarring, that movement can be both purposeful and peaceful. Captain Kosal's voice carries easily across the water as he calls softly to shore, exchanging words in Khmer with someone you can't quite see. The conversation has the relaxed quality of old friendship, and you realize this departure is not just a beginning for passengers, but a continuation of relationships and routines that have been woven into this stretch of river over many years. The boat is not separate from the community along these banks, but part of its daily rhythm, as expected and welcome as the evening light itself. The engines come to life with a low, steady thrumming that you feel more than hear. It's not the harsh, mechanical roar of highway travel, but something more organic, a heartbeat that seems to synchronize naturally with the water's own pulse. The sound wraps around you rather than intruding upon your thoughts, becoming quickly as much a part of the river's voice as the gentle lapping against the hull. Slowly, almost imperceptibly at first, the shore begins to slide past. The movement is so gradual that you might mistake it for the land drifting rather than the boat beginning its journey. This is traveling at the speed of contemplation, at the pace that allows your mind to release its grip on the urgent concerns that seemed so pressing just hours ago. Already, the world of schedules and deadlines feels distant, replaced by the immediate and sensory reality of wind on your skin and the endless scroll of riverbank revealing itself around each gentle curve. A fisherman in a narrow wooden boat appears ahead, his silhouette dark against the copper water. He raises one hand in greeting as you pass, a gesture so natural and unhurried that it seems to arise from the river itself. Captain Kosal responds with a brief, melodious call, and the exchange carries across the water like a blessing, a reminder that this river has been a highway for human connection for centuries beyond counting. The upper deck beckons, and you climb the short ladder to find yourself in a different world of perspective. Here, the view opens to encompass not just the water ahead, but the entire panorama of river life. Villages appear and disappear along both shores. There, stilted houses painted in faded pastels, soft blues and weathered yellows, and the warm pink of tropical sunsets. Children wave from wooden docks where women wash clothes, the fabric bright against the darker wood, and their laughter carries across the water like birdsong. The cushioned seating area that Channery prepared welcomes you with the softness of well-chosen fabrics and the thoughtful angles that frame the view perfectly. From here, you can see how the river ahead curves gently to the right, disappearing around a bend marked by a grove of coconut palms whose fronds catch the evening breeze like natural prayer flags, moving in slow, meditative waves against the darkening sky. Other passengers have found their own perfect spots for this golden hour passage. The French couple sits at a small table, sharing a pot of jasmine tea that Channery has brought them, their quiet conversation now entirely in French, the words flowing like another layer of the river's many voices. The photographer has settled at the stern, his camera resting unused in his lap as he simply watches the wake spread behind the boat in two perfect lines of disturbed water that catch and scatter the light before smoothing back into the river's eternal surface. The sun has begun its more noticeable descent now, no longer the overhead presence of midday, but a companion traveling westward with visible purpose. Its light strikes the water at angles that transform the surface into something precious and molten, no longer simply brown river water, but liquid bronze, liquid gold, liquid amber that shifts and flows with every slight movement of boat and current. You settle deeper into your chosen spot and feel your breathing naturally begin to match the boat's steady rhythm. There's something profoundly restful about surrendering control of direction and speed to Captain Kosol's experienced hands, about letting the river itself determine the pace of discovery. This is travel as meditation, as a form of active rest where the body moves through space while the mind finds the stillness that comes only when you stop trying to direct every moment of experience. A great blue heron lifts off from the shallows ahead, its massive wings beating slowly as it carries itself across the boat's path and settles again further downstream. The bird's unhurried flight seems to embody the river's own sense of time, where everything important happens, but nothing needs to be rushed, where arrival and departure are simply different faces of the same eternal movement. The first hour of the journey passes like a slow dream, measured not in minutes, but in the gradual accumulation of small, perfect moments. A water buffalo, lifting its great head to watch your passage. The scent of cooking fires beginning to rise from evening kitchens along the shore. The way the light continues its slow transformation from gold to amber, to the first hints of rose that promise the spectacular sunset still to come. As the lotus dream carries you deeper into the river's embrace, you feel yourself settling into boat time, river time, where the only schedule that matters is written in the movement of water and the ancient rhythm of current flowing toward the sea. This is just the beginning, you realize with deep satisfaction, of a journey that will unfold at exactly the pace your soul has been craving, in a place where time moves like the eternal river itself, always flowing, never hurried, carrying you toward discoveries you cannot yet imagine, but are already beginning to dream. As the afternoon dissolves into evening, you find yourself drawn to the upper deck of your river vessel, where wicker chairs wait in perfect stillness beneath a canopy that filters the golden light into soft, dancing patterns across the polished teak beneath your feet. The boat moves with such gentle constancy that you might forget you're traveling at all, if not for the slow procession of riverbank life that unfolds like pages in an ancient book, each turn revealing something unexpected and quietly beautiful. The air carries new fragrances now that the day's heat is softening. The green smell of water, hyacinth clustering near the banks, the faint sweetness of frangipani blossoms from unseen gardens, and underneath it all that distinctive scent of river water that speaks of journeys both recent and eternal. You settle deeper into your chair, feeling the slight vibration of the boat's engine transmitted through the deck, a gentle hum that seems to synchronize with your own heartbeat as the Mekong carries you forward into the approaching dusk. A fisherman in a narrow boat appears around a bend, his silhouette dark against the copper-colored water as he casts his net with movements so practiced they seem choreographed by the river itself. The net spreads in a perfect circle before settling onto the surface with barely a whisper, creating ripples that catch and scatter the slanted sunlight like handfuls of coins tossed into liquid metal. You watch him work with the unhurried precision of someone whose grandfather's grandfather fished these same waters, whose understanding of current and season runs deeper than any map could chart. The wake from your boat reaches him in gentle waves, lifting his small craft with the same courteous rhythm that now rocks you, and he raises one hand in acknowledgement, not quite a wave, but a gesture of recognition between fellow travelers on this ancient waterway. There's something profoundly settling about this exchange, this wordless communication that transcends language and nationality, rooted in the simple shared experience of being held by the same river at the same moment in time. As your boat continues its leisurely progress, you notice how the quality of light begins its subtle transformation, the harsh brightness of afternoon giving way to something softer and more forgiving. The sky above starts its slow shift from blue to cream, with wisps of cloud stretched thin as silk scarves across the dome of heaven. Palm fronds along the riverbank catch this changing light and hold it briefly before releasing it in gentle shadows that dance across the water's surface like living calligraphy written in a language you're only beginning to learn how to read. The boat's gentle motion creates its own rhythm, a slight roll to port, then starboard, then forward again, so subtle you might miss it if you weren't paying attention. But once you tune into it, it becomes a kind of meditation, a physical prayer that your body seems to understand without instruction from your mind. Your breathing naturally adjusts to match this motion, deepening and slowing until you realize you're no longer thinking about breathing at all, but simply allowing it to happen in harmony with the boat's peaceful progress through the darkening water. From somewhere in the distance comes the sound of temple bells, their bronze voices carrying across the water with a clarity that seems impossible given the vastness of the landscape around you. The sound arrives in layers. First one bell, deep and resonant, then others joining in a chorus that speaks of evening prayers and ancient rituals, of communities gathering as the day ends to acknowledge something larger than themselves. The bells seem to bless your passage, welcoming you not as a tourist, but as a temporary participant in the timeless rhythm of life along the Mekong. A great blue heron materializes at the water's edge, standing motionless among the reeds with the infinite patience of a meditation master. Its reflection wavers slightly in the gentle current, creating two birds, one solid and watchful above the waterline, one fluid and dreamlike below. As your boat passes, the heron turns its head with regal slowness to observe you, yellow eyes holding yours for a moment that feels charged with ancient wisdom before it returns its attention to the serious business of fishing, reminding you that this river supports countless forms of life, each following rhythms far older than human memory. The crew moves quietly around the boat, preparing for evening with the same unhurried efficiency they've brought to every task since your departure. You hear the soft splash of a mop on the lower deck, the gentle clink of glasses being arranged for sunset drinks, the murmur of voices speaking in Khmer, their tones as peaceful and measured as everything else in this floating world. There's something deeply comforting about being cared for by people who know these waters intimately, who read the river's moods like familiar text and navigate not just by charts and instruments, but by accumulated wisdom passed down through generations of river folk. A small village appears on the eastern bank, its wooden houses raised on stilts like graceful long-legged birds wading in the shallows. Smoke rises from cooking fires in perfectly straight lines in the still air, and you catch the faint aroma of fish curry and jasmine rice, scents that make your own stomach rumble quietly in anticipation of the dinner that awaits you aboard your floating sanctuary. Children's laughter carries across the water, high and bright as wind chimes, mixing with the deeper voices of adults calling to each other as they finish the day's work. The sun hangs lower now, a warm golden orb that has lost its harsh edge and become something you can look at directly without discomfort. It paints everything it touches with honey-colored light. The weathered wood of the boat's railings, the surface of the water that stretches away in both directions, like a liquid highway to everywhere and nowhere. The leaves of water plants that bow and straighten in the gentle current, like dancers following music only they can hear. You find yourself thinking less and observing more, as if the river's influence is gradually shifting your consciousness from the analytical to the purely experiential. Each vessel is a small miracle of organization, loaded with produce arranged in perfect rows, emerald limes nestled against golden pineapples, bunches of bananas hanging like green chandeliers, mounds of rambutans with their red spiky shells catching the first tentative rays of light. The air fills with scents that awaken your senses gradually. The sweet perfume of ripe mangoes, the clean green smell of fresh herbs, the earthy aroma of ginger and lemongrass, all mingling with the mineral scent of river water and the faint smokiness from cooking fires being kindled aboard the food boats. It's an olfactory symphony that speaks of abundance and tradition, of lives lived in harmony with the river's rhythms. Your boat glides silently between the market vessels, and you're struck by the grace with which the vendors navigate this floating world. A woman in a conical hat poles her boat loaded with dragon fruit, with movements so fluid they seem choreographed, while nearby, an elderly man tends a cooking fire, the flames reflected in the dark water like captured stars. Their movements have the unhurried confidence of people who have performed these same actions thousands of times, who know exactly how the river will behave, how their boats will respond, how the morning light will gradually reveal the colors of their wares. The sky continues its slow transformation, shifting through deeper purples toward the first blush of coral along the eastern horizon. In this growing light, you can see more details of the floating market. The way each boat displays its goods with an artist's eye for color and arrangement, the ingenious systems of ropes and poles that allow the vessels to stay together without colliding, the small shrines tucked among the produce, decorated with offerings of fruit and incense. A cooking boat drifts past, and you catch the intoxicating aroma of pho being prepared, star anise and cinnamon, ginger and onion, the rich depth of bone broth that has simmered through the night. The vendor, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, works with practiced efficiency, her movements economical and sure as she tends multiple pots balanced on a charcoal brazier that seems impossibly stable despite the boat's gentle rocking. Steam rises from her pots, creating small clouds that drift across the water like earthbound spirits. The sounds of the market create their own music. The gentle lapping of water against boat hulls, the soft calls of vendors greeting each other, the rhythmic scrape of bamboo poles against wood, the quiet sizzle of food cooking over open flames. There's no urgency in these sounds, no harsh edges or sudden noises. Everything moves at the river's pace, unhurried and deliberate, as if the market itself is floating not just on water, but on time itself, existing in a space where morning can unfold at its own natural rhythm. A fruit vendor's boat draws alongside yours, moving with barely a whisper through the dark water. The boat is a floating cornucopia, mangoes arranged in perfect golden pyramids, watermelons stacked like green cannonballs, clusters of tiny bananas no bigger than your thumb, and strange exotic fruits you don't recognize, their alien shapes and colors adding mystery to the morning. The vendor, a young man with weathered hands and a quick smile, doesn't speak but offers you a perfectly ripe mango, its skin blushing red and gold, warm from yesterday's sun. The mango's sweetness explodes across your palate, juice running down your chin as you bite into flesh so perfectly ripe it seems to dissolve on your tongue. It tastes like concentrated sunshine, like the essence of tropical mornings distilled into fruit. And as you eat, you understand something fundamental about this place, how the river provides, how its people have learned to read its moods and work with its rhythms, creating abundance from the simple act of bringing together boats and goods and human connection. The eastern sky begins to show the first true colors of dawn, pale gold threading through the purple darkness, promising the sun's imminent arrival. In this growing light, the floating market reveals more of its secrets. You notice how the vendors have arranged themselves not randomly, but according to some invisible logic. The fruit boats clustered in one area, the vegetable sellers in another, the food preparation boats positioned where the smoke from their fires won't drift into the produce. It's a temporary city, assembled each dawn and dissolved by full daylight, existing for just these few precious hours when the river becomes a marketplace. The water between the boats creates narrow channels, dark mirrors that reflect the gradually lightening sky and the silhouettes of the vessels. Occasionally, a fish jumps, sending concentric circles spreading outward, distorting the reflections momentarily before they reform, perfect and still. These small disruptions seem to emphasize the overall tranquility, like punctuation marks in a sentence written in water and light. A flower boat appears through the morning mist, and your breath catches at the sight. The entire vessel is transformed into a floating garden. Lotus blossoms in shades of pink and white, marigolds burning orange and gold, jasmine creating cascades of tiny white stars, orchids in impossible shades of purple and yellow. The fragrance reaches you before the boat does, sweet and complex, layering floral notes that seem to capture the essence of the tropical morning itself. The flower seller is an elderly woman whose face tells stories of decades spent on the river. Her movements as she tends her floating garden are gentle, reverent, as if she understands that she's the curator of something sacred. She lifts a perfect lotus blossom to her face, inhaling its fragrance with closed eyes, and in that moment you see the pure joy she takes in her work, the deep satisfaction of bringing beauty into the world. Now the eastern horizon begins to glow with true warmth, gold deepening to amber. And you know the sun's appearance is only minutes away. The floating market seems to sense this too. There's a subtle quickening in the movements, vendors making final arrangements to their displays, cooking fires being stoked to full brightness, boats repositioning themselves for the day's trading that will begin in earnest once the sun breaks free of the horizon. The air temperature begins its gentle rise, the cool kiss of night gradually giving way to the promise of tropical warmth. You can feel it on your skin, this subtle shift, like the earth itself exhaling after holding its breath through the dark hours. The mist that has been hovering above the water starts to thin and lift, revealing the full scope of the floating market in all its colorful glory. The wooden boats bob with increasing animation as vendors begin their morning choreography, each movement deliberate yet unhurried. A woman in a conical hat adjusts her position at the stern of her vessel, her weathered hands guiding a long paddle through the amber water with the kind of effortless precision that speaks of decades spent navigating these currents. Her boat sits low in the water, heavy with pyramids of dragon fruit, their bright pink skin catching the strengthening light like exotic lanterns floating on the river's surface. The sound of voices begins to weave through the morning air, not the sharp calls of commerce yet, but the softer murmur of preparation. A man sorting through baskets of lychees speaks quietly to his neighbor, their words carried across the water in the melodic cadences of Khmer, the language rising and falling like the gentle lapping of waves against hulls. You cannot understand the words, but the rhythm of their conversation becomes part of the river's own music, blending with the creak of bamboo and the soft splash of paddles. Your boat drifts closer to the organized chaos of the floating market, and the details sharpen with each passing moment. The scent of ripe fruit intensifies, sweet and tropical, mingling with the earthier smell of fresh vegetables still damp with river mist. A vendor arranges her display of morning glory flowers, their purple blooms destined for soup pots in villages along the banks. Her movements are unhurried, each flower placed with the care of someone who understands that beauty and sustenance are not separate things, but part of the same essential rhythm of life on the water. The floating market begins to drift past your vessel, or perhaps you drift past it, the gentle current making it impossible to tell who is moving and who is still. This uncertainty adds to the dreamlike quality of the scene, as if you've entered a world where the normal rules of space and movement have been softened, made more fluid. A small boy, perhaps 8 or 9 years old, sits cross-legged in the bow of his family's boat, carefully arranging small bags of spices in neat rows. His concentration is complete, his young face serious with the responsibility of his task. The sun climbs higher, its rays beginning to penetrate the thinning mist, and you notice how the light transforms everything it touches. The brown water takes on hints of gold and amber. The weathered wood of the boats glows warm and honeyed, and the colorful produce seems to pulse with an inner radiance. Steam begins to rise from somewhere among the boats, carrying with it the rich aroma of faux being, prepared on a small floating kitchen. The star anise and ginger adding their distinctive notes to the symphony of scents surrounding you. As your boat continues its lazy progress downstream, the floating market gradually gives way to a different scene entirely. The banks of the river begin to reveal themselves more clearly as the mist continues its slow retreat, and you find yourself gazing upon clusters of traditional stilt houses that seem to grow organically from the muddy shores. These homes, raised high on wooden pillars to accommodate the river's seasonal moods, create a rhythm of their own along the waterline, their various heights and angles forming an irregular but harmonious skyline that speaks of generations of accumulated wisdom about living with water. The houses themselves tell stories through their weathered boards and corrugated metal roofs, some painted in faded blues and greens that echo the colors of the river, others left natural to silver and darken under years of monsoon rains and blazing sun. Beneath each house, in the cool shadows created by the elevated structure, you can see glimpses of daily life. Fishing nets hung to dry, small boats tied to the stilts, chickens pecking through the muddy ground, and children's toys scattered about with the casual abandon of a place where the whole village is a playground. Smoke rises from several chimneys, thin white streams that dissipate quickly in the warming air, carrying with them the scent of wood fires and cooking rice. The smell reaches you across the water, homey and comforting, speaking of breakfast being prepared in dozens of small kitchens, of families gathering around low tables to share the first meal of the day. You can almost taste the rice porridge, thick and warming, perhaps topped with bits of dried fish or fresh herbs plucked from floating gardens that bob near the shore. A woman appears on one of the wooden platforms that extends from a house into the water, her sarong bright against the weathered planks. She kneels beside a large ceramic jar, dipping a plastic basin into its depths and lifting out water that catches the morning light as it falls in silver streams back into the container. Her movements are part of an ancient routine, unchanged in its essential elements despite the modern basin in her hands. She sets the filled basin aside and reaches for another, her actions unhurried and meditative, as if drawing water were itself a form of prayer. Children begin to emerge from the houses, their voices adding bright notes to the morning's growing chorus. A girl in a school uniform, her white shirt crisp despite the humid air, carefully makes her way down wooden steps toward a small boat moored below her house. Her school bag is wrapped in plastic, protection against the splashes that are inevitable when your commute involves a journey across water. She unties the boat with practiced efficiency, her movements confident despite her young age, and begins to pole herself toward the opposite bank where other children are converging, all bound for the same destination. The sight fills you with a quiet wonder at the adaptability of human life, the way communities shape themselves around the rhythms of river and season, finding not just survival, but joy and beauty in circumstances that might seem challenging to outsiders. Your boat's captain adjusts course slightly, angling toward the eastern shore where morning mist still clings to the riverbank like smoke from dying campfires. Through this veil of vapor, shapes begin to emerge, the curved roof lines of a temple complex, their terracotta tiles darkened with moisture, catching the early light in pools of amber and gold. Palm fronds frame the view like living curtains, their broad leaves heavy with dew that occasionally releases in a soft patter onto the wooden dock below. The bell sounds again, joined now by its companions in a slow, measured conversation that seems to count the very heartbeats of the morning. Each bronze voice has its own character, one deep and authoritative, another lighter and more musical, a third that trembles slightly as if touched by the same mist that wraps around the temple's pillars. You find yourself breathing in rhythm with these ancient timepieces, your chest rising and falling as naturally as the river's eternal flow. Steam rises from the water where the sun's rays first touch its surface, creating layers of atmosphere that shift and dance with each breath of wind. The temple grounds emerge more clearly now through this gossamer curtain, saffron-robed figures moving slowly between the buildings, their bare feet silent on stone paths worn smooth by countless generations of morning rituals. The scent of incense begins to reach you across the water, sandalwood and jasmine mixing with the green smell of wet earth and the mineral sweetness of the river itself. Your boat glides closer to the temple's waterfront, where stone steps descend directly into the Mekong, creating a threshold between the sacred and the flowing. Lotus blossoms float near the shore, their pink and white petals unfurling to greet the day, while small fish dart between their stems in the clear shallows. The water here is so still it doubles the temple's reflection, creating a perfect mirror world where bells ring in watery reverse and morning prayers echo from liquid depths. A monk appears at the water's edge, his movements deliberate and graceful as he descends the stone steps. In his hands, he carries a simple wooden bowl, and you watch as he kneels beside the river, cupping the clear water with reverence. His actions are unhurried, each gesture part of a meditation that has been repeated here since before your grandmother's grandmother drew breath. The slight splash as he lifts water to his lips creates its own small music, harmonizing with the continued conversation of bells above. The mist begins its slow retreat as the sun climbs higher, revealing details that were hidden moments before. Prayer flags flutter from strings between the temple's pillars, their colors bright against the weathered stone. Reds like fresh pomegranate seeds, yellows warm as turmeric, blues deep as twilight sky. Each flag carries wishes and hopes on the morning breeze, their gentle rustling adding another layer to the symphony of sounds that surrounds this sacred place. From somewhere within the temple complex comes the soft rhythm of wooden instruments, not quite drums, not quite bells, but something between the two, keeping time with a patience that makes your own heartbeat slow to match its measured pace. The sound mingles with the whispered chanting that drifts through windows carved with intricate patterns, each opening designed to let prayers flow outward like incense smoke. Your boat captain cuts the engine completely now, allowing the current to carry you in a gentle arc past the temple's facade. In this silence, every sound becomes magnified and precious. The drip of water from an oar, the soft creak of rope against wood, the distant call of a bird hidden among the banana trees that cluster near the temple walls. Even your own breathing seems loud in comparison to the profound quiet that emanates from this holy place. A stillness that doesn't feel empty, but rather full of accumulated peace. An elderly woman appears on one of the temple's upper terraces, her grey hair pinned simply at the nape of her neck. She moves with the careful grace of someone who has found her rhythm with age, carrying a brass urn that catches the light as she waters small plants arranged in earthenware pots. The water falls in silver streams from her vessel, each drop creating its own tiny celebration as it meets the thirsty soil. She pauses in her work to watch your boat pass, raising one hand in a gesture so subtle it might be a blessing or simply an acknowledgement of your shared moment. In this particular instant of mourning, the temple bells mark another interval, their bronze voices now joined by the softer chiming of wind bells that hang from the eaves, stirring in the breeze that carries the last wisps of mist away from the water's surface. The sun has found its strength now, warming your face and hands as you float past, its rays creating cathedral columns of light that slant through the humid air, illuminating tiny insects that dance like living sparks between the shore and your position on the river. As your boat begins to curve away from the temple, following the river's natural bend toward whatever lies ahead, you find yourself turning to maintain sight of this peaceful sanctuary for as long as possible. The saffron robes of the monks blend with the warm stone of the buildings, creating a harmony of earth tones that seems to pulse with the rhythm of the bells. The scent of morning cooking fires begins to mix with the lingering incense, rice steaming in bamboo containers, fish being grilled over charcoal, tea leaves releasing their essence in ceramic pots. The temple's reflection in the water grows more distant but no less clear, its image rippling gently with each small wave created by your boat's passage. Even as the sounds of bells begin to fade, they seem to linger in your memory, creating an internal rhythm that continues to slow your breathing and soften the edges of any thoughts that might disturb this profound tranquility. A final glimpse through the palm fronds shows morning light, now fully illuminating the temple complex, transforming the mist-shrouded mystery of minutes ago into a place of golden clarity and deep shadows. The transformation feels like watching the earth itself wake up, stretching into full consciousness while retaining the peaceful wisdom of sleep. Your boat carries you forward into whatever wonders await around the next bend. But the temple bells continue to ring in your ears like an internal mantra, their ancient message of patience and reverence settling into your bones like warmth from gentle sunlight, promising to accompany you through whatever dreams may come. The temple bells fade gradually behind you as your boat glides into a quieter stretch of the river, where the morning light reveals something entirely different ahead. Here, the Mekong widens into a broad, glassy expanse, dotted with small wooden boats, each one moving with the slow, deliberate rhythm of fishermen who have been practicing their craft for generations. You can see them clearly now, silhouettes against the brightening sky, their movements fluid and economical, each gesture refined by decades of repetition. Some stand balanced on narrow planks at the front of their boats, casting nets with motions so graceful they seem more like a dance than work. Others sit patiently with long bamboo poles, their stillness so complete they might be mistaken for statues, if not for the occasional gentle adjustment of their posture. The sound that reaches you first is the soft splash of nets meeting water, not harsh or sudden, but gentle, like whispered conversations between the fishermen and the river itself. These sounds come at irregular intervals, creating a natural percussion that seems to pulse with the heartbeat of the morning. You notice how each fisherman has his own timing, his own rhythm, yet somehow they all blend together into something harmonious and unhurried. The air carries the scent of river water mixed with wood smoke from small cooking fires on some of the boats, where early breakfast preparations are already underway. It's a working smell, honest and earthy, that speaks of lives lived in close partnership with the water. Your boat drifts closer to this floating community, and you begin to see the incredible skill in what initially appeared so simple. One fisherman near you unfurls his net with a motion that starts in his shoulders, flows through his arms, and releases in a perfect circular cast that spreads the net like a blooming flower across the water's surface. The net itself is a marvel, hand-woven with weights along its edges that help it sink in just the right way, creating a dome beneath the water that will trap whatever fish swim beneath it. You watch as he waits, perfectly still, reading something in the water that you cannot see. His patience is absolute, unhurried by any external schedule, governed only by the ancient communication between hunter and prey that has played out on this river for thousands of years. Another boat catches your attention, where an older fisherman works with what appears to be a different technique entirely. He uses a series of long, flexible bamboo poles that bend and sway with his movements, creating ripples across the water's surface in patterns that seem almost musical. His weathered hands move along the poles with the confidence of someone who could perform this work blindfolded, feeling for the subtle vibrations that tell him when a fish is near. The concentration on his face is peaceful rather than tense, the focused calm of someone completely absorbed in work that feeds both body and soul. His boat rocks gently with each movement, but he adjusts his balance automatically, part of a conversation with the water that requires no conscious thought. The morning light continues to strengthen, and you begin to see the river bottom in the shallower areas near the banks. Here, other fishermen work with techniques that seem to belong to an even more ancient time. Some wade knee-deep in the water, using circular basket traps woven from bamboo strips. They move these traps with slow, sweeping motions, herding fish into the narrow opening with a patience that feels almost meditative. Their legs create small wakes as they move through the water, and you can see how they read the current, working with it rather than against it, using the river's own energy to guide their catch toward the waiting baskets. The water around their legs catches the light, creating small prisms that dance and shift with each step. One particular fisherman works close enough to your boat that you can observe his technique in detail. He uses what appears to be a traditional fish trap made of woven reeds, a long, funnel-shaped device that fish can enter but cannot easily escape. His movements are economical and precise as he positions the trap, adjusting its angle to work with the current rather than fighting it. You watch him test the water temperature with his hand, reading information in that simple gesture that speaks of years spent learning the river's moods and preferences. His breathing is slow and even, synchronized with his work in a way that makes the entire process appear effortless, though you sense the deep knowledge and experience required to make it look so simple. The sounds of this floating village create their own gentle symphony around you. Beyond the splash of nets and the soft movement of water against hulls, you hear the quiet conversations between fishermen. Not many words, but the brief exchanges of people who understand each other well enough that full sentences are rarely necessary. Someone calls out a greeting in a language you don't understand, but the warmth in the voice translates perfectly. Another voice responds from a boat barely visible in the morning haze, and you realize these fishermen maintain contact across considerable distances, sharing information about conditions, catches, or simply acknowledging each other's presence on the water. The boats themselves tell stories in their weathered wood and practical modifications. Each one has been shaped by its owner's specific needs and preferences. Extra storage built into unexpected corners, nets hung in particular ways, small shelters constructed from whatever materials were available. Some boats show evidence of recent repairs, while others bear the smooth patina of wood that has been constantly in contact with water for years. The oars and paddles lean at angles that suggest they've been placed exactly where their owners can reach them without looking. Every tool positioned by habit and necessity rather than aesthetics. As your boat moves slowly through this aquatic neighborhood, you notice the way different fishing techniques create different rhythms in the water. The net fishermen work in longer cycles: cast, wait, retrieve, reset, while those using poles maintain an almost constant subtle motion, small adjustments and gentle probes that never quite cease. The trap fishermen move in broader patterns, their work more about positioning and patience than active casting or pulling. Together, these various rhythms create overlapping circles of disturbance and calm across the water's surface, like visual music that you can read in the play of light and shadow on the river. One elderly fisherman sits in his boat with such perfect stillness that you almost don't notice him at first. His fishing pole extends far out over the water, and he holds it with the kind of relaxed attention that suggests he could maintain this position for hours without strain. His breathing is so slow and quiet that he seems to have synchronized it with the gentle rocking of his boat, becoming part of the river's natural rhythm rather than fighting against it. When a fish finally takes his bait, his response is immediate but unhurried. The quick, precise movement of someone who has made this motion countless thousands of times, efficient and certain without appearing rushed or aggressive. The water around the fishing boats reveals its own patterns and mysteries. In some areas, you can see schools of small fish moving just beneath the surface, their silver bodies creating flashes of light that appear and disappear like scattered coins. The fishermen read these signs with eyes trained by experience, adjusting their positions and techniques based on information that exists in the movement of the water itself. You begin to understand that successful fishing here requires not just skill with nets and poles, but an ability to interpret the river's constantly changing messages about current, temperature, depth, and the invisible highways that fish follow in their daily journeys. Some of the fishing boats carry small fires in metal braziers, and the smoke from these fires drifts across the water in thin, aromatic streams. The fishermen use these fires not just for cooking, but for processing their catch, and the smell of wood smoke mixed with the clean scent of fresh fish creates an olfactory signature that speaks of honest work and simple sustenance. You watch one fisherman tend to his fire with the same careful attention he gives to his nets, adding small pieces of driftwood with timing that keeps the flames steady but never wasteful. The fire's reflection wavers on the water's surface, creating a small pool of warmth and light that seems to anchor his boat in the vast expanse of the river. The morning progresses, and you notice subtle changes in the fishermen's activities. Some begin to gather their equipment, their body language suggesting they've completed their planned work for this session. Others seem to be just beginning, arriving in boats that cut quiet wakes across the increasingly busy water. There's a natural ebb and flow to this activity that follows rhythms you don't fully understand but can sense. Patterns based on fish behavior, weather conditions, and personal preferences developed over lifetimes spent on the water. The changing of the guard happens without fanfare. Boats passing each other with brief waves or nods of recognition, each fisherman focused on his own relationship with the river, rather than competing with his neighbors. Your boat continues its gentle passage through this scene, and you feel yourself becoming part of the greater rhythm rather than merely observing it. The slow pace of your movement matches the unhurried tempo of the fishing boats, and you begin to understand how this speed, much slower than land-based life, allows for a different kind of awareness. Details become visible that would be missed at higher speeds. The way sunlight penetrates the water at different angles, the subtle variations in current that the fishermen read like a familiar language, the small birds that followed the fishing boats hoping for scraps or disturbed insects. This is a world that reveals itself only to those who take the time to look, to wait, to synchronize their own rhythms with those of the water and its inhabitants. And you feel your breathing automatically slowing to match the peaceful pace of everything around you. The heat of the afternoon settles over everything like a warm blanket that's been left too long in the sun, and you find yourself naturally gravitating toward the shaded areas of the boat's deck. The captain has found a perfect mooring spot along the riverbank, where ancient trees lean out over the water, their branches creating a natural canopy that filters the harsh sunlight into gentle, shifting patterns. The engine has been silent for nearly an hour now, and in its absence, you become aware of how the entire world seems to have entered into a collective agreement to slow down, to rest, to simply be still in the drowsy embrace of the hottest part of the day. Your eyelids feel pleasantly heavy as you settle back against the cushioned bench, the fabric warm but not uncomfortable beneath you. The wooden deck radiates a gentle heat that seems to seep up through your feet and legs, a reminder of how thoroughly the sun has been working its magic throughout the morning hours. Even the air itself feels substantial now, thick with moisture and warmth that moves lazily around you, like honey being poured from a great height, coating everything it touches with a dreamy languor that makes even the simplest movements feel deliberate and unhurried. The sounds around you have changed too, becoming softer, more intermittent, as if the heat has muffled the world's sharper edges. Instead of the constant splash and gurgle of water against the moving hull, you now hear only the occasional gentle lap of tiny waves against the stationary boat, a sound so rhythmic and subtle that it begins to merge with the beating of your own heart. Somewhere in the canopy above, a bird calls once, then falls silent, as if deciding that even that small effort was too much for such a warm afternoon. The leaves rustle with the faintest breath of breeze, a whispered conversation between the vegetation and the air that speaks of patience and rest. You let your gaze drift across the water, noting how different it looks in this sleepy afternoon light. The surface moves more slowly here in the shallows, creating barely perceptible ripples that catch and scatter the filtered sunlight like scattered coins on dark velvet. The water appears almost black in the shadows, then shifts to deep amber, where the sun manages to penetrate the leafy ceiling above. You watch a single leaf drift past, spinning slowly on some invisible current, its journey so unhurried that you find yourself following its progress for long, peaceful minutes, your own sense of time beginning to dissolve in the afternoon's golden haze. The boat rocks almost imperceptibly with the river's gentle movement, a motion so subtle that you feel it more than see it, like being cradled in enormous, invisible hands. Your body begins to synchronize with this barely there rhythm, and you notice how your breathing naturally deepens and slows, matching the languid pace of everything around you. The warm air fills your lungs completely, carrying with it the mingled scents of sun-heated wood, river water, and the green complexity of the overhanging vegetation. It's a perfume that speaks of growth and stillness, of life lived at nature's own unhurried pace. Other passengers have found their own quiet corners for afternoon rest. You can hear the soft murmur of conversation from somewhere behind you, voices pitched low and unhurried, punctuated by comfortable silences that stretch like cats in the sunshine. Someone has opened a book, and you catch the whispered sound of pages turning slowly, leisurely, as if even reading has become a more contemplative act in this drowsy atmosphere. The crew moves about their tasks with the same unhurried grace, their footsteps soft and considered on the sun-warmed deck, their movements economical and peaceful. You close your eyes for a moment and immediately become more aware of the temperature against your skin. The air feels like a warm bath that you're wearing instead of soaking in, enveloping you completely without being overwhelming. Where the filtered sunlight touches your face and hands, there's a gentle tingling warmth that seems to penetrate just beneath the surface, loosening muscles you didn't realize were tense. The shade feels cooler by comparison, creating subtle zones of comfort that shift and change as the boat moves almost imperceptibly with the water's flow. When you open your eyes again, everything seems to have settled even deeper into the afternoon's peaceful rhythm. A small fishing boat drifts past in the main channel, its occupant moving with the same unhurried deliberation that characterizes everything in this heat. The fisherman raises one hand in a lazy greeting, a gesture that takes its time to unfold and linger in the warm air before completing itself. You find yourself responding in kind, your own wave feeling slow and dreamlike, as if you're moving underwater or through honey. The quality of light continues to change subtly as clouds drift across the sun, creating moments of deeper shade followed by returns to golden warmth. These variations play across the water's surface like slow-motion fireworks, patterns of light and shadow that shift and merge and separate again with hypnotic regularity. You watch this display with the kind of absorbed attention usually reserved for flames in a fireplace, your mind emptying of everything except the simple pleasure of witnessing these natural rhythms. Your body has found its perfect position now, supported by the boat's gentle architecture and the warm cushions, every muscle group releasing into the afternoon's embrace. The heat seems to be working its way through you from the outside in, dissolving the small tensions and tightnesses that accumulate during any journey, any day, any period of being awake and alert and engaged with the world. This is different from nighttime rest. This is the particular kind of peace that comes only in the middle of the day, when the sun is high and the world has grown drowsy with its own abundance. The scents around you intensify in the still air. You can distinguish the green smell of leaves and bark, warmed by hours of sunlight until they release their essential fragrances into the atmosphere. There's the mineral scent of the river itself, clean and ancient, mixed with something floral from the vegetation along the banks. Occasionally, a breath of breeze brings hints of wood smoke from some distant cooking fire, or the earthy richness of mud and growing things, each scent layering over the others to create an olfactory landscape that's as complex and soothing as a lullaby. Time seems to have become elastic in this heat, stretching and condensing in ways that make minutes feel like hours, or perhaps hours feel like minutes. You're no longer certain which, and you discover that you don't care. The urgency that drives so much of daily life has evaporated like morning dew, leaving behind only this perfect contentment with whatever pace the afternoon chooses to set. Your thoughts, when they come at all, arrive slowly and drift away just as gradually, like clouds forming and dissolving in a summer sky. You become aware of your heartbeat, steady and calm, a metronome keeping time with the afternoon's peaceful symphony. Each beat seems to resonate not just within your chest, but throughout your entire body, a gentle pulse that connects you to the boat beneath you, the water around you, the warm air embracing you. It's as if the boundaries between yourself and this drowsy world have become more permeable, allowing you to feel part of something larger and more peaceful than your individual self. The afternoon stretches ahead like an endless golden corridor, promising more of this same restful peace, more opportunities to simply exist without agenda or hurry. You let yourself sink deeper into the boat's embrace, into the heat's gentle insistence on stillness, into the river's ancient wisdom about the value of moving slowly enough to notice everything, to miss nothing, to be fully present for each small moment as it unfolds in its own perfect time. And as you rest in this golden suspension of time, a new sound begins to weave itself into the river's constant murmur. At first, it's so faint you might mistake it for birdsong or the splash of fish jumping. But gradually, it clarifies into something unmistakably human and joyful. The bright voices of children carried across the water like scattered petals on the breeze. Your boat drifts around a gentle bend, and there they are, a cluster of village children playing along a muddy shoreline where the bank slopes gradually into the shallow water. The afternoon light catches their movements in quick, darting flashes. bare legs kicking up sprays of river water, small hands cupped to splash each other, faces tilted toward the sun in pure, unguarded laughter. Their joy is so immediate, so present, that it seems to shimmer in the air around them, like heat waves rising from sun-warmed earth. The children haven't noticed your approach yet, absorbed as they are in their games. You watch a little girl, perhaps 7 years old, wade deeper into the current with careful, deliberate steps, her arms extended for balance. The water reaches her knees, then her thighs, darkening the faded fabric of her rolled-up shorts. She calls something to her friends on shore in the local dialect, words you don't understand, but whose meaning is crystal clear in her tone of delighted discovery. Two boys are constructing something elaborate in the soft mud near the water's edge, their heads bent together in concentration. Their project appears to be part dam, part castle, part boat, the kind of ambitious architectural undertaking that exists only in the imagination of children who see infinite possibility in a handful of river clay. One boy carefully places small sticks as supports, while the other pats and shapes the mud with the focused intensity of a master sculptor. When a section collapses, they simply laugh and begin again, their resilience as natural as breathing. The sound of their play creates its own music, splashing, giggling, the soft plop of mud being shaped by small hands, occasional shouts of mock alarm when someone ventures too deep or gets splashed unexpectedly. This soundtrack of childhood mixes with the river's deeper voice and the rustle of palm fronds overhead, creating a symphony that speaks of countless generations who have played along these same banks, who have discovered the same simple joy in water and mud and friendship. Your boat glides closer, moving so slowly that your arrival feels like a gradual revelation rather than an interruption. The children's world expands to include you naturally, the way ripples widen on still water. A small boy notices you first. He's been floating a makeshift boat made from a large leaf with a twig for a mast, guiding it with gentle pushes of his finger. When he spots your vessel, his eyes widen with curiosity rather than shyness. Soon all the children have turned to regard you with the frank, unguarded interest that belongs uniquely to the young. They don't wave or call out immediately. Instead, they simply observe, taking in the sight of your river craft and its passengers with the same careful attention they might give to an interesting bird or an unusual cloud formation. Their stillness creates a moment of perfect suspension. You watching them, they watching you, the river continuing its eternal conversation with the shore. Then the spell breaks in the most beautiful way. The little girl in the deeper water raises her hand in a tentative wave, and this single gesture opens the floodgates of interaction. Suddenly, all the children are waving, some jumping up and down on the muddy bank, others splashing deliberately to catch your attention. Their greetings come in a mixture of languages. Some call out in English, "Hello, hello," while others use Vietnamese phrases that need no translation, their warmth evident in every syllable. The boy with the leaf boat wades closer to your path, holding his tiny vessel aloft to show you his creation. The pride in his face is radiant, and you can see how seriously he takes this role as harbour master of his small fleet. The leaf has begun to curl at the edges, from the water, and the twig mast leans at a precarious angle. But to him, it's clearly a magnificent ship worthy of admiration. Behind him, the mud architects have abandoned their construction project to join the impromptu welcoming committee. Their hands are caked with rich, dark earth, and their clothes bear the happy evidence of serious play, streaks and smudges that map out their afternoon adventures. One of them calls out something that makes his companions dissolve into giggles. And though you can't understand the words, their laughter is a language everyone speaks fluently. The afternoon light seems to gather around these children, turning their wet skin golden and catching the droplets of river water that cling to their hair like tiny diamonds. Their energy is infectious, but not overwhelming. Instead, it blends with the drowsy warmth of the day to create something uniquely peaceful. This is joy without urgency, play without competition, simply the pure expression of young lives fully engaged with the moment. As your boat continues its lazy progress past their playground, you notice the way the children have seamlessly claimed this stretch of shoreline as their own. Small treasures are scattered along the bank, a collection of smooth river stones, carefully arranged, shells and bits of interesting driftwood, the remains of earlier mud constructions, slowly returning to the earth. This is their kingdom, ruled by imagination and bounded only by the reach of their laughter. A slightly older girl stands knee-deep in the current, her sarong hitched up and tucked securely around her waist. She's teaching a younger child how to cup water in his hands and release it in a perfect arc, a simple skill that seems to require great concentration and brings enormous satisfaction when mastered. Her patience with her small student speaks of sisterly love or the natural mentorship that flourishes in communities where children of different ages play together freely. The water around the children is no longer the clear brown of the deeper channel, but has been transformed into something richer and more complex by their play. Swirls of disturbed sediment create patterns like abstract paintings, while the surface breaks and reforms constantly under their splashing feet and hands. This is the river at its most alive, animated by human joy and reflecting it back in every ripple and gleam. You can smell the rich scent of wet earth mixing with the cleaner smell of moving water, and underneath it all, the green perfume of vegetation drinking deeply in the afternoon heat. The children have brought their own scents to this mixture. The warm smell of sun-heated skin, the faint sweetness of recent meals, the indefinable fragrance of childhood that seems to carry hints of adventure and possibility. One of the youngest children, a toddler barely steady on his feet, stands at the very edge of the water, under the watchful eye of the older children. He's clearly desperate to join the fun, but equally uncertain about this vast, moving element. Each tiny wave that laps at his toes sends him staggering backward with delighted squeals, only to return moments later for another tentative encounter with the river's edge. His dance of approach and retreat is endlessly entertaining to his companions, who encourage him with gentle calls and reassuring gestures. The sounds of their play begin to fade as your boat carries you slowly past their domain. but the children continue to wave until you're nearly out of sight around the next bend. Their farewell is as wholehearted as their greeting was. Arms raised high, voices calling across the growing distance, some of them running along the shore to extend the goodbye for a few precious moments longer. Even as their figures grow smaller and their voices merge back into the river's constant song, the warmth of their presence lingers in the air around you. Their joy has become part of the afternoon, woven into the golden light and the gentle current and the drowsy peace that holds everything in perfect suspension. You carry their laughter with you like a gift, a reminder that some forms of happiness are as natural and eternal as the river itself. The memory of their play settles into your consciousness with the same gentle persistence as the afternoon heat, becoming part of the slow river of contentment that flows through this endless golden day. Their uninhibited joy serves as a bridge between the profound stillness you've been experiencing and the equally profound aliveness that pulses through every moment, every splash, every shared glance across the eternal conversation between human hearts and flowing water. This aliveness continues to ripple through you as the boat's gentle momentum carries you forward into the softening afternoon, and you find yourself naturally drawn toward the upper deck where a few scattered cushions wait in patient arrangement. The wooden planks beneath your bare feet hold the day's accumulated warmth, releasing it now in slow, generous waves that seem to rise up through your body with each careful step. The railing, worn smooth by countless hands and countless journeys, feels solid and reassuring under your palm as you settle into the perfect spot where the boat's slight sway becomes a rhythm you can sink into completely. From this elevated perch, the river spreads before you in an entirely new dimension of vastness. What felt intimate and immediate from the lower deck now reveals itself as part of something infinitely larger, a liquid highway that stretches beyond the curve of distant hills, carrying not just your small vessel, but the dreams and stories of everyone who has ever trusted their journey to these ancient waters. The perspective shift brings with it a corresponding shift in your internal landscape, as if rising those few feet above the river's surface has also lifted you above the small concerns and mental chatter that usually occupy the foreground of consciousness. The sun has begun its deliberate descent toward the horizon, and with each passing minute, the quality of light transforms in ways that seem almost orchestrated for this moment of perfect stillness. What was bright and immediate during the heat of afternoon now mellows into something amber and golden, painting everything it touches with the warm patina of late-day contentment. The water no longer reflects the harsh brilliance of overhead sun, but instead becomes a mirror for the increasingly dramatic canvas of sky, where clouds begin to arrange themselves like brushstrokes across an infinite masterpiece. You arrange yourself comfortably against the cushions, feeling your body naturally adopt the posture of deep observation, not the tense alertness of someone trying to capture every detail, but the relaxed awareness of someone prepared to receive whatever gifts this moment might offer. Your breathing settles into the same unhurried rhythm as the boat's progress through the water, each inhalation drawing in the increasingly complex fragrances that evening seems to release from the landscape around you. There's jasmine flowering somewhere along the distant banks, mixing with the green scent of rice paddies and the faint sweetness of wood smoke from cooking fires beginning to be lit in villages you cannot see but somehow sense. The other passengers seem to sense this transitional magic as well, their conversations dropping to murmurs that blend seamlessly with the boat's engine and the gentle splash of water against the hull. Someone has placed a small speaker near the captain's wheelhouse, and traditional Khmer music drifts across the deck, not loud enough to dominate, but present enough to add another layer to the atmospheric symphony that surrounds you. The haunting melody of a traditional flute weaves between the natural sounds of river and evening, creating moments where you cannot tell where the music ends and the voice of flowing water begins. Your gaze drifts from the water's surface to the approaching shoreline, where the day's activities are winding down with the same gentle inevitability as the sun's descent. A fisherman stands knee-deep in the shallows, his movements so economical and practiced that they seem choreographed to match the river's own rhythms. Each cast of his net creates expanding circles that catch the slanted light before dissolving back into the water's continuous flow, and you find yourself mesmerized by this ancient dance between human intention and natural abundance. Further along the bank, a Shah small boy tends to a few water buffalo that have waded into the river's edge to drink and cool themselves in the day's fading heat. The massive animals move with surprising grace through the water, their dark forms creating gentle wakes that spread outward in perfect symmetry. The boy seems completely at ease in their presence, occasionally reaching out to touch a flank or guide a movement with the unconscious confidence of someone who has never known these creatures as anything other than gentle partners in the daily rhythm of life along the water. As the sun drops lower, the sky begins to reveal its evening wardrobe in incremental splendor. What started as simple golden light deepens into layers of coral and rose, with wisps of cloud catching and holding these colors like silk scarves trailing across an endless expanse. The horizon becomes a study in gradual transformation, each moment bringing subtle shifts in hue and intensity that would be impossible to capture with anything other than the patient, receptive attention you now find yourself naturally offering. The boat's wake spreads behind you in a perfect V-shape, its white foam bright against the darkening water. And you realize this trail represents something profound about the nature of journey itself. How we move through experience, leaving these temporary marks of our passage, beautiful in their impermanence, meaningful not because they last, but because they represent the authentic intersection of intention and possibility. The wake will fade within minutes of your passing, but for now, it serves as a reminder of the gentle power required to move forward through any medium, whether water or time or the mysterious substance of an ordinary life lived with attention. Your hands rest naturally on the warm wood of the deck chair, absorbing the day's stored sunlight through your palms, while your eyes continue their soft focus on the constantly changing panorama around you. There's no effort in this watching, no sense of needing to remember or analyze or compare what you're seeing to anything else you've experienced. Instead, there's simply the deep satisfaction of allowing perception to unfold at its own pace, like a flower opening in response to optimal conditions of warmth and light and patient, appreciative witnessing. A flight of egrets passes overhead, their wings catching the amber light as they move in perfect formation toward whatever evening destination calls to them. Their synchronized movement creates a brief shadow across the deck, a momentary coolness that feels like a blessing before they disappear beyond the boat's canopy. In their wake comes the sound of their calls, haunting and melodic, adding another voice to the growing chorus of evening that includes the distant lowing of cattle, the splash of fish jumping, and the soft percussion of water against the boat's hull. The temperature begins its own subtle evening dance, the oppressive heat of afternoon giving way to something more forgiving and complex. A slight breeze stirs the air around you, carrying new scents and sounds from the landscape you're passing through. There's the green freshness of plants releasing their daily moisture back to the atmosphere, the earthy richness of mudbanks revealed by the river's gentle fluctuations, and underneath it all, the clean, eternal scent of moving water itself, that indefinable fragrance that seems to carry within it the memory of every place this river has ever been. As you settle deeper into this meditation of simple presence, you become aware that your body has found its own perfect equilibrium within the boat's gentle motion. Every slight shift in direction or speed is absorbed and integrated by muscles that have learned to read the water's language through the vessel's hull. You are no longer a passenger riding on the river's surface, but part of an integrated system that includes boat and water and the vast sky above, all moving together in response to forces both visible and invisible, immediate and eternal. The sun touches the horizon now, beginning the final act of today's celestial drama. The entire western sky ignites with colors that seem too intense to be real. Deep oranges flowing into magenta, soft purples bleeding into gold, all reflected and doubled in the river's surface until it becomes impossible to tell where sky ends and water begins. You are suspended in a world of pure color and light, breathing in beauty so immediate and overwhelming that it bypasses the mind entirely and speaks directly to something deeper, something that recognizes this moment as a gift beyond the reach of ordinary language or understanding. In this perfect suspension between day and night, between the active engagement of afternoon and the receptive stillness of approaching evening, you find yourself naturally entering a state that transcends meditation and becomes something closer to communion, not with any particular thing, but with the simple miracle of existence itself expressing itself through water and light and the inexorable turning of the earth toward night. Each breath feels like participation in something sacred, each heartbeat a contribution to the vast rhythm that connects all things in their eternal dance of becoming and returning, flowing and resting, moving forever forward while remaining eternally present in the endless golden now. As the boat settles into its evening rhythm, the world begins to reveal its secret symphony. The sounds emerge gradually, like musicians tuning their instruments before a performance that has been rehearsed for countless centuries. First comes the gentle lapping of water against the hull, not the purposeful splash of movement, but the tender conversation between river and wood, a language of small kisses and whispered promises that speaks of currents running deep beneath the darkening surface. The engine has found its night voice now, a lower register that hums rather than churns, creating a bass note that seems to resonate not just through the deck beneath your feet, but through your very bones. It's the kind of sound that doesn't demand attention, but simply becomes part of you, like the beating of your own heart after you've walked up a long hill and finally stopped to rest. You find yourself breathing in time with its steady pulse, your chest rising and falling to match this mechanical heartbeat that carries you through the liquid darkness. From somewhere in the distance comes the first bird call of the approaching night. Not the sharp territorial cry of daylight, but something softer, more questioning. It's answered by another, then another, until you realize you're listening to an entire conversation happening in a language you don't understand, but somehow feel in your chest. These are the voices of creatures preparing for night, calling to each other across the water with news of the day's ending, sharing information about safe places and hidden currents, about the temperature of the air and the direction of the wind. The water itself has found a new voice as evening deepens. During the day, it spoke in bright splashes and confident gurgles, but now it murmurs in undertones, creating sounds that seem to come from everywhere and nowhere at once. You hear it sliding along the riverbank, with a whisper like silk being drawn across skin, pooling in quiet eddies with the gentlest of sighs, catching around partially submerged logs with a bubbling commentary that rises and fades like distant laughter. Somewhere ahead, another boat passes in the opposite direction, its engine creating a different harmony, higher pitched, more urgent. As it approaches, the two mechanical voices weave together in an unexpected duet, and you find yourself holding your breath slightly, listening to this brief musical collaboration between strangers on the water. The sound peaks as the boats draw alongside each other in the darkness, invisible except for the small constellation of lights that marks their passage, and then gradually separates again as they continue their opposite journeys, leaving behind only the memory of their shared song and the gentle rocking motion of their combined wake. The air carries scents now that weren't present in the heat of the day. There's the green smell of vegetation releasing its moisture to the cooling atmosphere, a sweetness that seems to rise directly from the water itself. Fish are jumping somewhere nearby. You hear the sudden splash and see the brief silver flash in your peripheral vision, followed by the expanding circles that catch what little light remains in the sky. Each jump creates its own small percussion note in the river's evening composition, unpredictable and delightful, like raindrops falling on a still pond. From the banks comes the sound of settling, branches creaking as they adjust to the temperature change, leaves rustling as small creatures move through them on their nightly business. It's a sound like turning pages in a favorite book, familiar and comforting, speaking of stories being written and rewritten with each passing moment. The vegetation seems to breathe differently at this hour, exhaling the day's accumulated warmth in long, slow sighs that you can actually hear if you listen carefully enough. Your fellow passengers have grown quieter as the night deepens, their conversations becoming softer, more intimate. The bright chatter of afternoon has given way to murmured exchanges, the kind of talk that happens when people feel held by darkness and silence, when the vastness of night makes them want to draw closer together. Someone laughs quietly, the sound carrying across the water like a small gift, and you realize how perfectly laughter fits into this symphony of evening sounds, adding its own irreplaceable note to the composition. The boat's movement through water creates its own subtle music, now that you're moving slowly enough to hear it properly. There's the gentle bow wave curling away from the hull with a sound like continuous, quiet applause. Water streams along the sides of the boat in rivulets that catch the light from the cabin windows, creating both sound and visual rhythm as they flow from bow to stern in endless, hypnotic patterns. The propeller churns far below, sending bubbles to the surface that pop with tiny champagne sounds, each one a miniature celebration of motion and momentum. Insects have begun their evening chorus, but these aren't the harsh, demanding sounds of daytime. These are the gentle musicians of twilight, creating a background texture that's almost like very soft static on an old radio, comforting in its consistency. They sing from the reeds along the banks, from the trees leaning over the water, from hidden places among the floating vegetation, their combined voices creating a blanket of sound that seems to wrap around the boat like the most delicate of shawls. The temperature has dropped just enough to change how sound travels across the water. Voices carry differently now, seeming to skip across the surface like thrown stones, reaching you in fragments and echoes that make conversation feel dreamlike and mysterious. Someone on the upper deck says something that makes others laugh, but by the time the sound reaches you, it's been transformed by distance and air into something that sounds like blessing, like approval from the night itself. You become aware of your own contribution to this symphony, the soft scrape of your chair as you shift position, the quiet intake of breath as you lean forward to better hear a particularly beautiful bird call, the gentle tap of your fingers against the railing as you unconsciously keep time with some rhythm only you can hear. These sounds don't disturb the evening's music. Instead, they join it, becoming part of the larger composition that includes every passenger, every creature, every drop of water moving in the current. The darkness has reached that perfect depth where sounds become more vivid, more three-dimensional. You can hear the exact location of the fish jumping, can track the passage of birds flying overhead by the whisper of wings through air, can distinguish between the sound of water moving around different obstacles, rocks, logs, the pillars of distant bridges. It's as if night has opened your ears the way it has closed your eyes, offering a different kind of vision, a different way of understanding the world around you. From somewhere far ahead comes the low, mournful call of a larger boat, probably a cargo vessel, making its way downriver with a load of goods bound for distant markets. The sound rolls across the water with the weight and authority of something much larger than your small cruise boat. And for a moment, you feel the vast scale of the river, the endless network of commerce and travel and human dreams that flows along its length every hour of every day and night. The gentle vibration of the engine has worked its way into your body now, a subtle massage that you feel in your shoulders, your back, the soles of your feet where they rest against the deck. It's like being held by the boat itself, supported not just physically, but somehow emotionally, as if the mechanical rhythm has become a kind of electronic heartbeat, steady and reliable, and infinitely reassuring. You find your breathing slowing to match this rhythm, your thoughts beginning to move in time with the gentle pulse that carries you forward through the star-filled darkness. And still the river sings its ancient song, the sound that has accompanied every journey down its length for centuries, the sound of water finding its way to the sea, of time moving forward while remaining somehow eternal, of countless small moments joining together to create something larger than any single splash or ripple or whisper could contain. The night sounds of the river become the soundtrack to your own gradual settling into this floating meditation, this gentle surrender to the current that carries both boat and passenger toward whatever quiet revelations await in the darkness ahead. These quiet revelations begin to emerge not as sudden insights, but as gentle recognitions that surface like bubbles rising from the river's depths. Your breathing has synchronized itself with the boat's subtle movements, each inhale drawing in the cool night air that carries hints of jasmine from unseen gardens along the banks, each exhale releasing the last traces of urgency that belong to your daytime world. The wooden planks beneath you have warmed to your body's temperature, creating a perfect cradle that seems to mold itself around your form. You realize you've stopped trying to see everything, stopped cataloging each sound and sensation. Instead, you've begun to simply exist within them. The river's voice has layers you hadn't noticed before. Beneath the primary melody of water moving past the hull, there's a deeper bass note, the sound of the Mekong's main current, miles wide and centuries old, carrying its ancient stories toward the delta. Above that, the delicate percussion of water drops falling from the paddle wheel, each one creating its own tiny splash that joins the greater symphony. And threading through it all, the almost inaudible whisper of fish moving near the surface, their movements creating the faintest disturbance in the water's skin. Your captain has dimmed even the small navigation lights, leaving only the stars to illuminate the journey. The darkness isn't empty, it's full of presence, thick with the breathing of sleeping villages and the rustle of palm fronds in the night breeze. Occasionally, a firefly traces its brief arc across the water, its light reflecting double in the river's mirror surface before disappearing into the reeds. These moments of illumination feel like gifts, small, reminders that beauty doesn't need to announce itself to be profound. The boat's motion has become so familiar that stillness would now feel strange. This gentle rocking has rewired something in your inner ear, in your sense of balance, until floating feels more natural than being landlocked. You understand now why river people speak of the water as home, why they describe solid ground as temporary and the current as eternal. There's a wisdom in surrendering to this movement that goes deeper than relaxation. It's about trusting forces larger than yourself, about finding your place in the flow rather than fighting against it. Dreams begin to visit while you're still awake, blending seamlessly with the river experience until you can't tell where consciousness ends and sleep begins. You find yourself remembering a conversation from years ago, but in the memory, you're having it here on the water, your words mixing with the sound of gentle waves. Or perhaps you're imagining tomorrow's sunrise, but it's painted with colors you've never seen, reflecting off water that seems to extend beyond the horizons of any earthly river. These aren't the jarring transitions of typical dreams. They're soft mergings, like watercolors bleeding into one another on wet paper. The scents around you shift as the boat moves through different stretches of the river. Here, the air carries the green smell of dense vegetation, so rich and alive it's almost edible. There, it lightens to include the mineral scent of sandbars and the clean smell of moving water. Sometimes you catch a whiff of wood smoke from a village cooking fire, or the sweet perfume of night-blooming flowers whose names you don't know, but whose presence feels like a blessing. Each breath is different, a small journey in itself. Your body has found a position it never wants to leave, not just comfortable, but perfectly aligned with the boat's movements, with the night air temperature, with the gentle vibration that travels through the wooden deck from the engine's quiet heartbeat. Your muscles have released tensions you didn't even know they were holding, letting go of the subtle bracing that urban life demands. Here, surrounded by water and darkness and the eternal patience of the river, your physical form remembers what it means to be truly at rest. The boundaries between your body and the surrounding environment continue to soften. The cool air touching your skin feels like an extension of your own awareness. The sounds entering your ears seem to originate from somewhere inside your chest. The rocking motion that cradles you feels like your own breathing made manifest in the physical world. This isn't loss of self, it's expansion of self, a growing into a larger definition of where you end and everything else begins. Time moves differently here in the river darkness. Minutes might be hours, or hours might be minutes. It doesn't matter because there's nowhere you need to be except exactly where you are. The usual markers that divide experience into manageable segments have dissolved. There's no urgent now demanding attention, no looming later creating anxiety. There's only this eternal present moment that somehow contains all the time in the world. You understand finally what people mean when they speak of living in the now. It's not about forcing awareness into a tight focus, but about relaxing into the spaciousness of a moment that has room for everything. The water sounds have become so familiar, they're like your own pulse, something you don't actively listen to, but couldn't exist without. This rhythmic backdrop has rewired your nervous system, training your brain to find calm in consistency, peace in repetition. The gentle variations in the sound, a slightly larger wave here, a change in pitch there as the boat moves through different depths, provide just enough interest to keep your mind gently engaged without becoming stimulated. Other boats occasionally pass in the distance, their lights creating brief constellations that drift across the water before disappearing around bends in the river. These encounters feel like meetings with fellow travelers in a dream, significant not for any interaction, but for the simple acknowledgement that you're not alone in finding solace on the water. Each distant engine sound rises and fades like a musical phrase, adding temporary harmonies to the river's eternal song before dissolving back into the comprehensive silence. The air temperature has dropped just enough to make the warmth radiating from the wooden deck more noticeable, more precious. This gentle contrast between cool air and warm wood creates a cocoon effect, a sense of being held by the boat while being caressed by the night. Your skin has become a sensitive boundary between these different temperatures, each pore aware of the subtle dance between warmth and coolness that plays across your body. Memories surface and submerge like gentle whales, rising just enough to be acknowledged before diving back into the depths of consciousness. But these aren't the sharp-edged memories that demand analysis or emotional processing. They're soft remembrances, worn smooth by time and made somehow sweeter by being recalled here in this floating sanctuary. A childhood afternoon by a different body of water, the sound of rain on windows during a peaceful evening, the feeling of being completely safe and cared for. These memories don't intrude. They visit, offering their gifts of connection and continuity before gracefully withdrawing. The stars above have wheeled slightly across the sky, marking the passage of hours in their ancient, reliable way. But their movement feels less like time passing and more like a slow dance you are privileged to witness. Each constellation tells its story in light and darkness, in the spaces between stars as much as in the stars themselves. You realize you're seeing not just points of light, but the vast distances between them, the enormous patience of space itself, the way beauty can exist in emptiness as fully as in presence. Your breathing has become so soft and natural that you are barely aware of it anymore. Just the gentle rise and fall that matches the boat's movement, the river's rhythm, the night's own quiet pulse. Each breath brings in not just air, but peace. Not just oxygen, but something deeper. A sense of belonging to this moment, this place, this experience of floating between earth and sky on water that has been flowing since before human memory began. Each exhale releases not just carbon dioxide, but the last vestiges of hurry, of worry, of anywhere else you think you should be. The engine's vibration has become a form of meditation, a gentle humming that travels through the boat's frame into your body, creating a subtle massage that reaches your bones. This isn't the harsh vibration of city machinery, but something more organic, more connected to natural rhythms. It's the mechanical heartbeat of your river journey, reliable and soothing, carrying you forward through the darkness toward whatever peaceful destinations await in the flowing hours ahead. This vibration becomes your guide, as the first hints of dawn begin their slow emergence along the eastern horizon. You can sense the change before you see it, that subtle shift in the quality of darkness that speaks of approaching light. The river seems to anticipate it too, the water's surface taking on a different texture, as if preparing itself to receive the sun's first tentative rays. The air grows softer around you, warmer somehow, carrying new scents that weren't present in the deep night hours. There's jasmine somewhere nearby, perhaps growing along a distant bank, mixing with the clean smell of morning mist beginning to rise from the water. Your breathing naturally adjusts to these changing rhythms, becoming slower and deeper as the world around you prepares for this daily transformation from darkness to light. The boat continues its steady progress, but you sense a different quality to the journey now. The engine's reliable hum carries you past sleeping villages where the first cooking fires are beginning to send thin ribbons of smoke into the pale sky. These communities along the riverbank exist in that peaceful space between night and morning, where time moves differently and urgency has no place. As the sky gradually lightens, you begin to make out the silhouettes of ancient temples rising from the shoreline. These sacred structures have witnessed countless dawns, just like this one, their weathered stones holding memories of morning prayers and quiet contemplation spanning centuries. The sight of them creates a sense of connection to something timeless, something larger than this single moment, yet perfectly contained within it. The water reflects these temple spires, doubling their presence and creating a mirror world where sacred architecture floats in liquid space. Your eyes trace these reflections, noting how they shimmer and shift with the boat's gentle wake, transforming solid stone into fluid poetry. This interplay between reality and reflection becomes a form of visual meditation, drawing your attention into patterns that seem to breathe with their own rhythm. A monk appears on one of the temple balconies, his saffron robes bright against the pale stone. He moves slowly, deliberately, perhaps beginning his morning rituals. You watch from your comfortable position on the boat, feeling like a respectful observer of this sacred routine. His presence adds a human element to the spiritual landscape, reminding you that these temples are living spaces, not just architectural monuments. The first true rays of sunlight break across the water now, creating paths of gold that stretch from the eastern shore to your boat. These beams of light move across the river's surface like gentle fingers, touching everything they encounter with warmth. You can feel this warmth on your face, a soft caress that speaks of the day's promise, while maintaining the peaceful quality of early morning. Birds begin their dawn chorus from the trees along both riverbanks. Their songs layer over each other in harmonious complexity, the deep notes of larger birds mixing with the bright trills of smaller ones. This natural symphony accompanies your continued journey, providing a soundtrack that feels both ancient and eternally new. Each bird call seems to echo across the water, creating a stereo effect that surrounds you with sound. The boat captain adjusts the engine slightly, perhaps responding to some subtle change in the current, or simply following his intimate knowledge of these waters. The sound shifts almost imperceptibly, but you notice it because everything has become so finely attuned to sensation and change. This small adjustment creates a new rhythm, one that seems perfectly matched to the increasing light and the awakening world around you. Lotus flowers appear in quiet backwater areas, their pink and white blooms opening to greet the strengthening sun. These flowers seem to embody the very essence of this peaceful morning, rooted in the water yet reaching toward light, beautiful in their simplicity yet profound in their symbolism. Watching them pass creates a sense of moving through a natural cathedral where each blossom serves as a prayer or meditation. The air temperature continues to warm gradually, and you feel the slight shift against your skin. It's not yet the heat of full day, but rather the gentle warmth of morning promise. This temperature change brings with it new scents from the awakening landscape, cooking rice from distant kitchens, flowering trees releasing their fragrances to the warming air, and the fresh smell of dew evaporating from leaves and grass. An elderly fisherman in a small wooden boat appears ahead, his net spread in perfect circles on the water's surface. He works with the practiced efficiency of someone who has performed this routine for decades. His movements, economical and graceful. As your boat passes at a respectful distance, he acknowledges you with a small nod, a moment of human connection that adds warmth to the already peaceful scene. The light grows stronger now, revealing colors that were hidden in the pre-dawn darkness. The water shows itself to be a complex blend of browns and greens, rich with the sediment and life that make this river so vital to the region. The shoreline vegetation displays dozens of shades of green, from the pale yellow-green of new growth to the deep emerald of established trees. Your boat enters a wider section of the river, and the sense of space expands around you. Here, the Mekong shows its true majesty, stretching broad and strong toward the distant horizon. Islands appear in the middle distance, some large enough to support small communities, others just clusters of trees rising from the water like natural bouquets. The sun climbs higher, and its light begins to penetrate the morning mist that rises from the water's surface. This mist creates a dreamy quality to everything you see, softening edges and making the entire scene feel like a gentle watercolor painting. Objects appear and fade in this soft haze, creating a sense of mystery and beauty that seems designed specifically for quiet contemplation. A temple bell sounds from somewhere across the water, its tone clear and resonant in the morning air. The sound carries easily over the river's surface, reaching you as a pure note that seems to harmonize with the boat's engine and the gentle splash of water against the hull. This bell marks some moment in the morning rituals, connecting you to the spiritual rhythms that govern life along these sacred waters. Children's voices drift from a village school, their recitation of lessons, creating a cheerful counterpoint to the more solemn temple sounds. These voices speak of continuity, of knowledge being passed from one generation to the next along these timeless riverbanks. The sound makes you smile, adding a note of joy to the morning's peaceful symphony. The boat's wake spreads behind you in perfect V-shaped lines, marking your passage through these sacred waters. Looking back, you can see how your journey has created temporary patterns on the river's surface, patterns that will soon smooth away, leaving the water unmarked and ready for the next traveler. Thank you for traveling with Sleepy Travel Stories. May your dreams take you to beautiful places tonight. Sleep well, and we'll see you on the next journey.